Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of DeepTech Studio. DeepTech startups are experiencing a never seen before high. There has been a rise in interest and investment in the sector. But vis-a-vis other domains, DeepTech needs patient capital, mentorship, and a supportive ecosystem. NASSCOM's Center of Excellence is one of the largest DeepTech innovation ecosystems in the country, and it focuses on solving real-world challenges with technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, etc. To talk to us about the same and how the COE engages with deep tech startups, we have with us Mr. Navratan Katariya, who's Director of Innovation Entrepreneurship, IoT and Artificial Intelligence for NASSCOM COE. Navratan, thank you for joining us here on this episode.
My pleasure to be here.
Navratan, talk to us about the FAME model you employ to engage with the deep tech startups.
Right. So let me tell what FAME is. FAME stands for Funding, Escalation, Mentoring, and Enterprise Connect. And all of these are very important for any startup to not only develop their idea into something reasonable, which they can market, but also to grow and scale. Apart from this, we also have an additional input, which is providing lab services. So what we provide is once the startups do come in our lab, we try to give him the mentoring either directly from our side or through the industry partners and the experts that we are connected to across the country and international. That mentoring, it may be on technology, it may be on product vetting, it may be on the market access, and anything even on things like how to file IPs and how to take the advantages of the assets created out of IP. So it may cover almost everything in the life cycle of a startup. Acceleration comes when they are a little beyond early stage, and we accelerate them to be able to scale to the market. In all deep tech areas, which are primarily B2B as well, it is very essential for them to be connected to the enterprises who will adopt. Now you will see the strengths of both enterprises as well as startups. They are complementary. Traditionally, enterprises have been doing their internal R&D and engineering to evolve new competitive products and services. What we are saying is that enterprises bring the market strength, market knowledge, domain expertise, and of course the financial muscle and the brand. Whereas on the other side, startups come with a huge agility, they come with new technologies and ideas, and they are highly customizable. So for example, if you want a blue shirt with a yellow button, for example, it's only the startup which can give. What we try to do is put them together. And once the co-creation, we call it as co-creation, happens, the success is much faster and deeper. And that helps the adoption of all the innovations in the user's perspective. Without adoption, we will not see startups actually being able to be successful. This is what we try to do. Our biggest strength, apart from the NASSCOM members who are primarily IT and BPM companies, is also the fact that there are a lot of analog companies which are coming to becoming our partners, who are the potential users of these solutions. And they take these solutions internally or to their markets. I'll give you examples in healthcare, in manufacturing. These are traditionally non-IT companies, but wanting to be digitalizing their production, their after sales, to predictive maintenance, to quality control, anything that covers the whole gamut of any of these companies. And I've just given you two examples, but we cater to every sector. And what we try to do is, this name that you see above my head is what was created 6 years back. If I can give you an introduction of how we were born, is Ministry of Electronics and IT generated this concept that we have had enough of IT culture and expertise in the country. How do we get into adoption and create innovative products and solutions out of India? So the Center of Excellence was created at that point of time. IoT was the fashionable words. It was called IoT AI. Was added because any data that comes from an IoT sensor is of no meaning unless there's an AI about it. But then every year there's a new technology which comes, and so we now cater to every emerging technology which comes into the area in the field of innovation. So what we are trying to do is the innovation, I must say, can come from not only startups, but from even MSMEs and large corporates. We try to bring the whole system or the ecosystem stakeholders together, that they can all work together to create certain very good high impact areas. And for us, being supported by the Ministry of Electronics and IT and the state governments, there we are in 4 centers in Bangalore, being the oldest 6 years back, Gurgaon, IIT Gandhinagar, and Vizag. Our purpose is to make sure that we become the enabler of the ecosystem. And with the support of the government, we get a large number of what we call as problem statements or use cases from the government as well. Because if you look at, government has a big potential of adoption of innovation. And it's a little difficult for startups to get addressed and get opportunities there. But what we bring to them is this connection between what a good successful innovation can do for the government or the public sector companies, or mass centric. And we are looking for healthcare. Now we are doing projects which are in rural areas, generally not easy for any commercial VC funding guys to fund it. We have to work also towards which are not commercially viable as of today, but show the world that this is a demoable project and it can be replicated.
Thank you, Navratan. That was insightful to understand how you connect various stakeholders and bring them face to face and employ on each other's strengths. Deep tech startups vis-a-vis other domains face numerous challenges. What do you particularly address via the COE?
So the biggest requirement of any startup today is, especially in deep tech, is the adoptee connection. So when I say adoptee, it's not only enterprise, but it may be government or ESUs or anything. And if they're successful in getting adopted, the solutions get vetted, then the funding follows them. And that is very important for most of these guys to be able to show that what they're talking about is workable, is commercially viable. And that is where our strength is, and where we try to help them not only in domestic market, because many of these deep tech startups, their big markets are internationally. So we are also involved into at least 7-8 countries, bilateral programs in which we do exchange of innovations across the boundaries.
Thank you, Navratan. Now it is particularly difficult for hardware startups to make their foray, and they need a lot of support in terms of technology and other collaterals. Now you have Innovate Lab as a product development venture. How does that help in accelerating product development for these startups?
So what happens is, in hardware, is it's a hardware and a software combination in general today. So you have very expensive test and measurement equipment, which of course a startup cannot afford. So what we did was we sourced them, thanks to my IT and the state governments. And some of these equipment are very expensive, 20-40 lakh rupees a piece. We provide these facilities to these startups free of cost when they are incubated with us. And they utilize these to move further on their development work. On terms of technology mentorship and the help and the support, it comes from the big players of the market. Any member of NASSCOM is also where we approach them for this specific technology related mentorship and the business support as
well. All right. What have been some of the success stories to emerge out of this ecosystem?
So, when we have corporate partners, we generally have an NDA clause, so we cannot really give out things which are very confidential to, but I can give you things which are in public domain and which are of interest to the public, for example. So I'll give you a few examples. Look at a case where in a very remote tier 3 city of a state, probably people have never had an ECG in their lifetime. If an ECG machine, a very small ECG machine, can be put in a PHC, which is primary health center over there, and without even a doctor, a ASHA worker, for example, can handle ECG, that can predict if something is going wrong. The machine, through its algorithm, checks the ECG waves to see whether it's a green, yellow, or red. And yellow and red can be through telemedicine, or a remote cardiologist sitting in a tier 2 or tier 1 city could uh, uh, intervene in it. So is the case of what we are trying to do is maternity. Infant mortality and mother mortality is very high in India. We are trying to see if there's a variable which can be installed on the tummy of a pregnant lady in risky pregnancies, and a ASHA worker can do that in the rural remote areas. And if there is any sense of danger to either of the mother or the baby, this gets alerted to the doctor who may be probably somewhere else. These are typical examples of where healthcare has been adding advantage. Something like if you have to monitor a railway track, or if you have to look at the health of thousands and thousands of bridges, many of them are many years old. Now it's almost impossible to physically inspect and monitor them. And what we're trying to do is, can we have load cells installed which can automatically check the frequency of the vibrations when a truck passes or very heavy machinery or a train passes? Can we predict the health of it and take interventive steps? And that covers every kind of infrastructure. It may be a large machinery, it may be a railway track, it may be, for example, we are also doing for aeroplanes. For aeroplane, when the routine inspection comes, it is very difficult to climb on it and check for the structural the structural capability of the flying machine. If a drone could fly and through computer vision itself check for any deviations, that becomes a huge advantage to the. So we do a lot of predictive maintenance in the industries, the manufacturing industries. If there's a large gearbox which costs probably half a crore, you cannot keep spares of its bearings and the gears without knowing when it will be required. It's a dead investment. So if you can predict based on the noise, the vibrations, and the temperature of what is the health of the gearbox and when do you expect a downtime, you can plan a lot of maintenance before that. These are a typical few examples of which are generic in nature, and we do on a very regular basis this kind of involvement of our startups. We do curate startups matching the needs of the adopting company or the organization.
Navratan, thank you for giving us some examples of the success stories and how they are helping address real world problems. What is your plan for the year ahead or for the future in the Center of Excellence, and what do you plan to focus on especially?
So we learned the art of adoption and how startups can be engaged with adoptees and how we can grow. We have to scale. We also act as a startup, if I can say that. We have learned that art, but how do we scale? That we impact more number of startups, we impact more number of impactee population, whether it's a industry, whether it's a armed citizen. It is very important for us to scale, without which the effect of these innovations not be known. That is the biggest challenge. The second is that while we have done very well in healthcare and manufacturing, we have to start looking at other verticals and technologies as well. So some new technologies like 5G are coming up. We will be hopefully doing something in that area so that any innovation can be tested in 5G lab much ahead of before the 5G network gets deployed, and we are at a little late stage to be able to uh, tackle the problems that we might expect in the field. In terms of verticals, we are looking at agriculture, we are looking at clean tech, we are looking at mobility, the electric vehicles and the network of charging and battery management. These are all the parts of verticals that we are looking at. We are working on them. We have many large number of verticals that we are being asked to address, and where the government also helps us is that they connect us to the various ministries. To give examples, in ministries like the mining industry, Uh, it's not a primarily a question of money there. It's a question of life. The risk that these miners carry. How can we predict if things are going wrong? If some specific dangerous gases are really coming into the mines? If there's a very heavy machinery which probably is in a dangerous situation at the site, can we all do that? Which has, I would say, very high impact areas, and technology can do it at a very quick method. We have to be able to deploy these to show that these work, and of course only if it works and it is useful to these industries, that they will deploy it on a larger scale.
Sure. Thank you, Navratan. Thank you for that insight. And it was just nice talking to you and understanding about the pay model that you engage and how do you connect various stakeholders of the ecosystem, and for also sharing some of the success stories um, by employing emerging technologies, how real world problems can be solved, and the various activities that the Center of Excellence is doing for deep tech startups in India. Thank you for joining us for this episode, and thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on all things technology. Thank you.